All right, welcome to this video from Fiture Marketing. My name is AJ, and in this video, I want to give you 10 lessons that I've learned as a gift to you from closing hundreds, probably over 350 cold leads from the internet. And I want to talk to you about your whole system, like how do you actually make your marketing work? So what I did is I wrote down 10 different lessons that I've learned, and I'm going to go through them one by one, tell you how we learn them and how you can apply it to your business. So lesson number one, who you sell to is more important than what you sell. So I'm going to give you an example, okay? I've done, no joke, over the last 3.5, 4 years, 1,000+ calls, which means that I've talked to a lot of people. And here's what I can tell you. The right offer to the wrong person will never work, and the wrong offer to the right person will never work. So what do I mean by that? Well, we have packages that can go upwards of $5,000+ a month, okay? And I've been on phone conversations with people that are running companies that might do $150,000 in monthly revenue. And I can go out and pitch that person a $5,000 a month all-inclusive package, and it makes sense for them. Why? Because the percentage of their revenue that they're reinvesting into their marketing program is small. Also, their return, but the word that I'm looking for is like their compounding return from that investment is going to be significantly more than someone that's doing $20,000 a month. So I tell you that because one of the big mistakes that people focus on is, what am I going to sell? What's my offer, etc.? What's my price point? How can I be competitive in the marketplace? Yes, you have to consider those things, but more importantly is, who do I want to sell to? Because do you think that Ferrari gives two poops about what the average person thinks about their price point? Or do you think that Gucci or Prada or whatever, Balenciaga or whatever, name your high-end brand, Rolex, do you think they care about what the average person says about their price point? No, because they're going after a who. They're not trying to fit into a box or a bubble. So what you want to do is figure out who is the best person that can pay and will happily and gladly pay whatever price point it is that you have for your product or service. Because the right who will pay for your offer, and the wrong who will never pay for it. So think about the who way more important than the what. Next thing on the list, you have to have a unique angle. So when we first started running ads for Fiture years ago, we were able to go out and just say social media advertising. If you want to advertise your business on social media, book a call. And we were able to get our calendar packed. I had 8 to 12 calls a day. I was able to close 3 or 4 of those people, and it was rolling, okay? And then what happened is the market got saturated, more and more people coming out with the same message. And so that same thing that used to work stopped working. Then we had to go out and we had to change our messaging. And we went and said, marketing makeover, right? If your old version or old style of marketing is no longer working, you need a makeover. So come over and schedule your marketing makeover call. And that fed us for almost a whole year. And then that stopped working. Why? Because people weren't just interested in general marketing anymore, right? They weren't, first it was social media, they got rid of that. Then it's the makeover, and then that kind of disappeared. And then we switched over to video advertising. Why you must use video advertising, and that's what's feeding us now. And so what you have to do is you have to find a unique angle in the marketplace. Now, if you listen to lesson number one, which was find the right who instead of the right what or offer, well, if you have the right who, your unique angle or your unique message can be directed towards the who, and that's what makes it stand out in the marketplace. So what you want to think about is, how can I be 3% different from what everyone else is preaching, from what everyone else is talking about? Because if you're a little bit different, people's ears perk up and they'll listen to you. And if you're the same as everyone else, you get categorized into this bucket. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to this year that say, Yeah, I see ads all the time, whatever. I ignore most of them, but there was something about your ad that made me say, hey, I need to talk to these guys. I've heard that literally 150 times this year alone. Okay, so with that being said, find a unique angle that makes people want to listen to you versus everyone else. Number three on the list, measure the important stuff. One of the big mistakes that I see from we've done it, clients have done it, I've seen it across many, many businesses, is measuring the wrong thing. So I'll give you an example of this. Some people that are looking for leads, right? They want to grow their business, they're looking for leads. What they're measuring is cost per lead, how many leads, et cetera, et cetera. Those are great, those are important, but those are what I call leading indicators, okay? All it is it's a signal of whether or not you might be heading in the right direction, but it's not actually the result. The result that matters is the sale, right? That's the lagging indicator, the actual thing that you want to happen. So video views, clicks, watch through rates, view through rates, how many people are adding to cart, how many people are booking a call, how many people are coming in as a lead. All of those categorize into leading indicators. And while yes, they can be used to measure some things, they don't matter. The thing that matters is the lagging indicator, which is the sales. So what you have to do is you have to be able to identify what the leading indicators are telling you, but measure against the lagging indicators. So how does this work? Well, it's very simple. We don't necessarily look at cost per lead. We do look at cost per booked call because that's an important metric for us. But more important, we look at customer acquisition cost. We need to know how much we have to spend on ads to acquire one customer. And let me give you an example of this. There have been months where we've been able to get booked calls for $90 a booked call, but the people were low quality, meaning that they were not the right type of person that we wanted to talk to. And so even though we can get $90 booked calls, it takes 30 calls to get one sale because we're not getting the right type of person. There have been other months where it's cost us $500 to get a booked call, but we close one out of every two people. So our customer acquisition cost was way lower. Even though the cost per lead, the leading indicator, was higher, the cost of acquisition, the thing we actually care about, was way lower because we measure what matters. So you can't always get fooled by these leading indicators and think that they're telling you the whole story. They're part of the story, but you have to also see the lagging indicators to know whether or not what you're doing is working. Next lesson, nothing lasts forever. Okay, so I told you about the original social media ads and then marketing makeover and now the video and now there's AI, right? There's all these things that happen. Well, in your business and your industry, I call it the flavor of the month, right? There's always something that you can go out to the market with that's a little tweak or a little update of your message. And at least you should be looking at this annually. But more important, like, or not even more important, but better strategy is to be looking at this quarterly, or depending on what type of business you're in, maybe even monthly. How can you give people something new to be excited to talk to you about? Because the reality is there is more noise and more advertising and more posting and more video than there has ever been in the history of humanity. And you can sum all that up into one word: distraction. There's more distraction now than there has ever been in the history of humanity. And because of that, here's what happens. You are not able to stand out unless you give people something new to think about. And so, with that being said, nothing lasts forever. So, what worked yesterday, you run it till the wheels fall off. But you don't want to be one of those business owners that makes the mistake of thinking that this car has to last you forever. Just like we change cars every 5, 6, however many years, we need to update our marketing messages, our offers, our strategies, our ads. our customer acquisition, etc. We need to update those things in order to keep up with how the world is changing. Just like people years ago would read a lot of long form content, nowadays people are moving to short form and attention spans suck. And then it's kind of going to shift back, right? Things happen like a pendulum, they move back and forth. So you got to be able to adjust with that. So just know, just because something worked yesterday does not mean it's going to work today or tomorrow. Next lesson, it's not always what you think. Here's what I mean by that. We went back, we're in November as I'm recording this video. We went back and we looked at every month of advertising that we've done throughout the first 11 months of this year, 10 and a half months. And here's what's interesting. The month that we had the most new clients, I think we had 16 new clients that month, was not the month that we had the most leads. In fact, the month that we got the most new clients was the month where we spent 50% of our budget on video view campaigns, meaning we went out and just showed people our message. 50% of our budget went to just showing people our message. Some of those people knew, some of those people that have seen us before, and we're hammering the heck out of them, meaning we're staying in front of them over and over and over and over and over again. That strategy brought us more new clients than going out and spending 100% of our money looking for leads. And so it's not always what you think that's going to get you the result, because sometimes we get so caught up in the internet version of things that we forget that we're all human. And for me, I don't buy something from strangers unless whatever it is that they're selling is so freaking compelling that I have to say yes to it, which might happen less than 0.1% of the time. The other 99% of the time, I have some type of perceived relationship with the person, with the customer, with the company. And then when the offer pops up, it's easy for me to go say yes to. I'll give you an example of this. A digital marketer. I remember a couple years ago, they had a Black Friday special for a couple $100. It might have been like $1,000 for their program that they normally charge like 3 or 5 or 8 grand for. And I easily said, yes, I'm going to go buy this. Why? Because I had a perceived relationship with the company. If they would have shown me that without ever me knowing about them or seeing them or ever hearing about them, there's a 0% chance that I spend that same couple hundred or $1,000, whatever it was. 0% chance, right? And so all the things that they had done leading up to that, the free guides, the videos, watching the former CEO and founder Ryan Dice, teach how to write copy and this and that. All of those things contributed to that $1,000 purchase that I made. And without them, it doesn't happen. And so in your business, it's not always what you think. It's not always just the ad. Sometimes it's the 15 social media posts you did. It's the 5 YouTube videos that you did. It's the 10 blogs that you did. It's the Google ad that you ran. And then the YouTube ad gets the credit for everything, but really without all of it, you get none of it. And that's the mistake people make. You put it all or nothing on one piece, but it's not that simple. If it was that simple, everyone would do it, but it's not. So what you have to do is be really focused on searching for the answers and finding what it is that really matters and that really moves the needle. Next lesson, automate your weaknesses. Okay, so we at one point had like a 30% show up rate, meaning that we would get 10 booked calls. I would sit on a Zoom call waiting for people to show up for 10 hours, and I would only get 3 of those people. Sorry, I had to do it the opposite. I would only get 3 of those people, right? And so I would waste 7 hours of my time for people that didn't show up. So we got frustrated. I got frustrated. So then we said, how do we make sure that we get as many people to show up as possible? So the first thing we did, we added text message reminders. Okay, so not only email reminders, but also text message reminders. And that helped a little bit, got us up to like 40%. The next thing that we did is in those text reminders, I went through and I created videos that we send out to people that get them excited and give them a reason to show up for the call. and that boosted us up even more. And then I went out and in the emails that we send out, instead of them just being generic reminder videos or emails, I went out and I made them where it's telling a story, it's giving testimonials, it's giving tips before they ever talk to me, it's getting them all these reasons and this reciprocity factor where I'm giving them something so they want to give me something back in return, and it shoots up our show up rate to 70%. And so we went from 3 out of 10 to 7 out of 10 by automating all the stuff that is a pain in the butt manually, right? And so by doing that, it helps us to have an overall more successful system or funnel. And so what you want to do is with AI and tools like Go High Level and tools like Zapier and tools like ChatGPT and Claude and Google Gemini and all these things, you can automate so much of your manual pain in the butt stuff, but you just have to go out and do it because you set it up once and it feeds you forever. I used to send out follow-up texts to every person that booked a call to confirm. I used to go out and send out emails manually to every single person that booked a call. I used to do all of that. Now I don't have to do any of it. And the only reason is because I set up the system once and it feeds us forever. Next thing, presentation matters. All right. Here's what I mean by this, okay? We've run ads for a long time, and we used to run ads that were selfie videos and things like that, and those still work, and we still do them. But when we went out and we created like a high-level commercial, meaning like multi-locations, multi-scene, professional cameras, big, bold text popping up, music and sound effects, when we invested into our presentation, it started attracting a different type of buyer. Because here's what happens. Your presentation matters in the fact that it's going to attract a certain type of person. And I've been on the phone or Zoom calls with millionaires from Miami, with people running huge companies from Kansas City and from Chicago and from Florida and New York and California. And these people were attracted because our presentation attracted them in the right way. And when we were presenting ourselves in a different way in the past, we were not attracting the same type of people. So your presentation is going to also determine who you attract. So when you go out and you say, this is the who that I want from lesson number 1, you then say, what type of presentation do I need to show these people to attract the right type of individual? And so that is going to be a very critical part of your success, the right type of presentation. Next one, quantity first, then quality. What do I mean by this? Most people hate selling, they hate following up, they hate doing all the things that really move the needle. And so because of that, they just want layups, right? They want referrals. They want people that come up, they already know they want to buy, they already are ready to, give you money, and all you have to do is not mess it up. But when you start advertising and you want to start growing aggressively, that method does not work. Why? Because you're now talking to what's called cold leads, strangers from the internet, people who have never heard of you. They don't know you, they don't like you, they don't trust you, and as far as they know, you're a scam waiting to steal their entire bank account. And that's how a lot of people go into these calls or these sales funnels or whatever it is. And so what you have to do is up your game. You have to have strategies that are going to get you enough quantity at first to where you can eventually get to quality. So what do I mean by that? Well, every time you get an action, let's say a lead, someone, fills out a form on your website or someone books a call on your calendar, that is an action that happens, okay? And that action is feeding back into these algorithms. And as that feedback gets inserted or gets fed back in, it then says, oh, okay, this is what you want. I'm going to get you more of this. Now, the best way to get that algorithm, that machine, think of it like you're training a puppy dog. The best way to get that puppy dog to give you what you want is to feed it the action that you actually want, which is sales, getting the money, right? But you can't do that right away because you have to test and you have to optimize and then you can scale. So what you have to do is get volume first. So let's say first you want to go out and get 100 leads and just get name, email, and phone number. And then you realize of those 100 leads, 90 of them were a waste of time or money. So then you say, all right, what can I do to get less leads but higher quality? So maybe you ask 2 or 3 or 4 more qualifying questions that make it harder for someone to get through and qualify, but also are going to decrease the number of people that get through. So the next month, let's say you get 50 leads, and of those 50, 10 were still quality. Okay, you're moving in the right direction, right? And then you can say, all right, I want to be even more efficient. The next month you only get 20 leads, but 10 of them were still quality, right? And then let's say of those 10 that were quality, you now close 3 of them. So now you want to feed that data back in of those ones that you closed back into the algorithms. And now you start optimizing for the people that are like those people, the ones that actually gave you money. And that's where quality comes into play. So quantity precedes quality because you're treating the dog every time that it does what you want it to do. And in the early stages, it's not going to do what you want it to do. So you have to train it up to do that. So quantity precedes quality. And if you understand that, you'll understand that at first it's going to suck. And then it's going to suck a little less. I think Garrett J. White said this, or I forget his name. And then at some point, it's going to suck so little that it's actually good. And that's pretty much how this game works. And there's no shortcut. There's no magic bullet. There's no mystery, secret that the genie from Aladdin's going to pop out and tell you. This is the way that it works. It's kind of like diet and exercise. You can start Ozempic, but you're still not going to lose 100 pounds overnight. It's still a process that you have to go through. The next lesson is it's often a sales problem. Okay, this is hard to hear, but what I've seen is that most people can easily close someone who's already been referred, who's already pre-sold on your business. Most people are unable to close a stranger from the internet. Why? For a couple reasons. Number one, they don't understand how to build enough trust fast enough to get someone to give you money. Number two, they don't actually tie the product or the service to the wants, the needs, and the desires of the actual prospect. Number three, they don't overcome objections either through the sales process or those overhanging, last ditch effort objections that come up at the end of the sales process. They don't do the things to overcome those. So they leave the prospects with objections that were never discovered, never found out, and never overcome and never addressed. And then number four, they don't present the offer in a way that shows a direct, clear path to how the customer is going to get the end result that they're looking for. And those 4 things are often the biggest reasons why you are not able to sell people that are strangers cold from the internet. It is a different skill set. It is a different process. It is a different system. And if you never learn that, then it doesn't matter how many leads you get because you'll never be able to close them. I can go out and close leads selling them marketing, selling them fitness, selling them physical products, selling them digital products, selling them coaching, selling them masterminds, selling them videos, selling them whatever. And the reason I'm able to do that is because I know how to build trust, discover what someone wants, tie the offer back to it, and overcome all objections and make it easy to say yes. And so I can do that no matter what I'm selling. So it's often a sales problem, and you need to address that first, because putting fuel into an engine that doesn't work is only going to waste a lot of fuel. So you need to get the engine firing, and then you get the fuel to help it you go further faster. And then the last one. Sometimes it's your business. And I know this isn't what you want to hear, but it's what you need to hear. Sometimes the problem is actually your business. I'm going to give you an example without revealing too much. We've sold a product in the past that was around $70 and it was around a 30% margin. Okay. Now, this was a product that people would buy once a year maximum. There was no reason to buy more. Okay. And some people maybe bought it once every 2 years or once every 3 years. And so to go out and spend a significant amount of revenue or sorry, money or cash in advertising to get customers to come and buy something that they're only going to use once a year, that's only $70, is a business model problem. It is not an ads problem. It is not a messaging problem. It is not a product problem. It's a business problem because whoever can spend the most to acquire a customer wins. What that means is that if you can go out and spend $1,000 to acquire a customer because you're going to make $180,000 from the customer, you're going to win. Whoever can spend the most to acquire a customer wins. So what does that mean? It means that that $70 product, you have to find out, how can I sell people 10 other complementary products that turn that 70 into 700? Or how can I sell that $70 product to someone every single month, right? You either need to sell more at the time of purchase, which can be other products or services, upsells, downsells, whatever, or you need to be able to sell more frequently, meaning shorten time frame between when they make the first purchase to the second, to the third, to the fourth, to the fifth. And until you figure that part out, that may be the reason why marketing doesn't make sense, because marketing always makes sense if you can figure out the business on the back end. Most people ask the wrong question. They say, I don't know if it makes sense for me to market. That is what I would call a victim mindset, meaning that you're going to let outside circumstances determine whether or not you can do the things that you need to do to grow your business. That is not the way that successful people or successful marketers or sales people or business owners think. The way that successful business owners think is this: how can I use marketing to grow my business, and how can I make sure that it's going to work for me? Because if you can answer that how, and it might mean adding more products or offers, it might mean creating bigger, more valuable offers, it might mean shortening the time frame between when you make your initial offer to when you make your upsell, it might mean adding some type of maintenance recurring revenue model to your business, it might mean a lot of things. But until you figure that part out, you're going to sit there with your hands, underneath your butt, sitting on your hands, wondering why it's not working for you. And like I said, you have to start asking the right questions, and you will find the right answers. And so with that, I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And this was my gift to you. These are real life business lessons that we've learned over the years. And so if you want to shortcut your journey to making these things happen for you and to really seeing success, then book a call. And if not, wish you best of luck. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.